All right. Hey guys, it's Brendan from Market Makers and the man, the myth, the legend himself, Crypto Savvy. Thanks for joining us on this collaboration stream. And we'll both be posting this video afterwards. And so Craig, what is your take on the market so far from what you're seeing? I know we both have similar targets. We have so many members that comment in the comments, hey, you should talk to Savvy. You guys have a lot of the same targets, but do you see overall downtrend is basically what you're seeing? And obviously in a bear market, you're going to have some vicious rallies as well.
Yeah, I do. And I've been explaining to people, I mean, there's no guarantees in any market what way we're going, but I do believe that we are in a longer term bear market. And if that's the case, I've explained how that works with people. I've showed the comparison, which we'll probably take a look at later with the Amazon to Bitcoin, which people are getting sick of seeing, but it's still valid. So, but anyways, if you watch a bear market like that, there's constant pumps and that keeps everyone bullish. And I always talk about in a bear market, everyone always wished they would have sold that last high, but that last high just keeps getting lower all the way down. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing here. So that's my opinion.
You said something to me earlier in the week when we were talking, and I thought it was really relevant, so I wanted to bring it up. So many people in this space, you and I are, I'm not going to say we're old, but we definitely have a lot more seasoned experience. And I think a lot of people that only trade crypto and only look at the space, but I think you realize as well, both of us coming from our different backgrounds of trading, that these markets are tied together, right? There's a lot of big money now, especially now. You were here last bull run, I was not, but the introduction of a lot of these hedge funds and the big banks, and you see that tied together as well in the broader stock market, don't you? So you can really look at the health and welfare of those markets and kind of, do a compare.
Yeah, big time. I've showed for a long time, like the DXY. I was showing people how that's usually bullish, and then the bottoms and tops of Bitcoin and DXY are pretty much opposites. And I'll go over that chart too a little bit later. But along with the Dow, I know a lot of people watch the S&P. I watch the Dow more just because I think the Dow is a little more relevant for the way things move. I always talk to people about the Dow being like the Bitcoin is to crypto, the Dow is to the regular markets. That's how I've always looked at it. Just my view, but I think you have to have a perspective of what's going on throughout all the markets. Gold, silver, good to watch. Like I said, Dow Jones and DXY. You kind of look at that stuff. It all goes together, and all kind of paints a big picture for you.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I think diversification is important. You hear, I mean, all the different YouTube channels talk about that and the investment strategies of not just being in one asset class. But I noticed that coming from the Forex space and commodity space, how closely Bitcoin moves with a lot of the tech stocks. And you've been around in this space longer than I have. And Bitcoin is marketed as a store of value, but in reality, to me anyways, and you may disagree, in reality, it moves like a high growth stock. I mean, it moves like a high growth tech stock.
It moves a lot like a penny stock.
I heard you say that.
Yeah. And that's, that's the big thing. A lot of people, like, one of the things that happened like last bull market when the bear market began, nobody really admitted the bear market began until it lost over 50%. Then people started, thinking maybe. And then there was a level where it'll never go past 10K. And then it went past 10K, and then it'll never get below 6K, and then it went below 6K. And I think a lot of that's going to happen this time. All these levels that you're hearing that are going to hold, when they break, all them people that thought it was going to hold have their sell orders down there, or they panic and sell, and that makes it go further. And that's what you see in a lot of bear markets. And we'll see what happens this time.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Hey, Lee, go ahead and kick it over to my screen. I want to go ahead and show a couple of charts, and then I'll kick it to Crypto Savvy, and he can show his charts. And Craig, feel free to comment or anything if you see anything that I'm missing. But just starting off with Bitcoin on the daily, I'm going to look at the larger time frames. And guys, the reason I keep showing this, and I know it's redundant for members in our Discord and for people that watch the Skate or channel, but the 144 and the 230.
I want to interrupt just real quick.
Go ahead.
How you just said that, like you have to apologize for showing the same charts. In my point of view, a good analysis or a good yeah, good analysis of the markets. Your chart should not change daily, and all of a
Right.
sudden you have a new pattern here or a new one here, and I don't know. That's kind of, I guess, what makes the big YouTubers get so many people in, because they have a new chart showing a new bullish perspective every day. You know what I mean? So
No, you're right. I mean,
it's just
especially
unfortunate.
on a daily time frame, things aren't going to change.
Yeah,
It's funny you
if it's
said that.
valid, it's valid. I mean,
Right. I was just commenting to Lee that I was watching some stock shows, and the guy that was more bearish than the others was apologizing for being bearish, and I said, I don't get it. It's just a market. Like, you don't
right? It's
apologize for
supposed to
being
go up and
bullish.
down.
Yeah, you don't apologize for being bullish or bearish. But yeah, exactly. But on the daily, so what I had here, I was showing people, I was zooming out back to how important the 144 and the 233 are, how it's your long-term trend. And when you get below it, you can see you're in that long-term consolidation. You come up, you back test it, you bounce up to your new all-time high. And then zooming in to where we are now, basically using Fibonacci wave projections, you have your 618 box, right? I've showed everybody on my channel how I was doing this with the wave projections, but we're basically ranging, we're sideways. I know you were the first person I've seen on YouTube to talk about Wyckoff, or I think you say Wyckoff, same thing. And, I trade with Wyckoff as well. And, looking at where we're testing this, we've been below the 144 and the 233 now for, since December 4th. When we fell through it, we tested it, we lost it, we tested it, we lost it, and we're currently trying to pump up and test it again. And I had my projections, and I don't use Elliott Wave, I know you do, but I had my projections for potential targets. And the first thing we got to do is flip the 618 that I have here of the smaller wave projection. This isn't an Elliott Wave projection, it's a Fibonacci wave, but it's a smaller wave
That's all
projection
Elliott
here.
Wave is Fibonacci's. So.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is at the 618. I have 44K. And the reason I drew this Gartley here as well, which is a harmonic pattern, I drew this Gartley here as well because it features and fits the measurements here for Fibonacci, but it's also the impact point. So this is a really crucial point to me, because if we lose
Where is that
it,
on your chart? Is that 40, 44?
that's at 44,024, but it's based off this smaller wave right here in the sideways market. So this isn't like it's not a larger wave pattern. But when I'm going sideways, I'm looking at these waves as they go back and forth. And then we trade with these point D targets on these harmonics. And that 44 number, and then I have 48,266, and I have the golden ratio 1618 at 55, which to me, like I said before on the other stream, I said if we got to 55, that's just a tremendous bullish momentum. I personally don't see it. I think we're going to probably retrace here if we do come up to the 233 and test it based on the last 3 months history. But if we do break through it, it's possible. But when I look at my chart, and I track everything with volatility coming from Forex, and I use ATR a lot. I don't know how familiar you are with ATR, but we last time we came down this baseline was January 19th, and prior to that, we've been elevated a long time. It was back in the summer when we got to this baseline in ATR. And ATR, just for the new people watching, ATR is just a measurement of volatility, which is a separation of candles, and this goes up when there's volatility. It doesn't tell you if it's a pump or a dump, but it goes up. And last time we were down here was in January when we started falling again. And then back before that was last summer. So I do think a move is incoming, but I always say, Craig, that you're going to rally to resistance. So when people say long-term bullish or bearish, my projections are down overall. But if you can defeat resistance, you can go up. And that's just a common sense principle in TA. So that's something that I'm looking at. As well as tracking the volume. And when I look at some of my other indicators here, I don't want to spend too much time just on Bitcoin because I had a couple charts I wanted to show people. But when I look at some of my other indicators here, like I know you use the VPVR as well, and I'm looking at the volume resistance here. And then I'm also looking at volatility. I'm looking at my RSVVB, which is a reverse engineered RSI. So it functions like Bollinger Bands, and it bottles up as it gets tighter when you're getting closer to a move. And that's what it's doing right now. So we're looking for a move potentially up. I mean, obviously, if we counter the resistance before we bottle up and explode, it expands like this over here on the left of my screen. When you get a move, that move could be down as well. So again, that tackling that 233 is really, really crucial for me. I want to show a couple of quick charts on Ethereum and on Solana as well, because it's doing the same thing. When I'm doing these smaller wave projections, like I took a wave here. I mean, I can just show you one really quickly here using the Fibonacci trend-based fib. Go ahead and remove that. And I'll just grab a trend-based fib. And what I'll do is I'll take the January 24th candle on Ethereum on the daily time frame up to the swing high February 10th, down to the swing low. And that's giving me that 618, which is what exactly we're hitting right now on Ethereum at 29.95. And I did the same thing for the base, a downward projection for the base, also the 618. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, I'm able to put all these in like a 618 box. That's removing the other fibs, a 382 and the 0.5, just for easy imagery here. But the one thing I always tell people is look at and you know this, Craig, from being in the market for so long, if Bitcoin's below its 144 and 233, oftentimes these other, especially the major alts, will be as well. And that's something that I can see here as well, is that we look like we're in the same exact setup as Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin can flip them, potentially the altcoins can. If Bitcoin loses it, this is something that retracement levels and just some upside targets for Ethereum. If it did flip it, I have the 618 at 29.95. And again, these are smaller wave projections, guys. The one fib at 34.25 and the 1618 at 41.21. But conversely, if you lose it, I have the bottom 618 here at 24.36, the one fib at 20.60, and the 1618 at 14.51. The 2618, Craig, people won't like this number, 466. 466 is what I had down there. But I wanted to show you guys because I haven't showed this chart in a while. So I don't know, Craig, I don't even know if you've seen this chart, but I started showing this back in November. So this is called a Navarro pattern. It's a harmonic pattern, a Fibonacci pattern for how Bitcoin moves. And I took it from the COVID low. And what's interesting, and you may have noticed this as well, if you take your trend-based fib from your previous all-time high, 64,855, down to your market low of 28,790 on BitGet, and then I would go up to the current all-time high. I look at the trend-based fib wave projection down, right? And I see the one fib, which I had this on the chart again since November, and it hit it within $40, 32,973. And that 1618 projection down here, which marries up perfectly at the 886 on my pattern, is 10,630. And like you and I were talking, I think that's really generous. And people ask me all the time, where are these other markets going? And I did a couple of videos showing wave projections basically down to the COVID lows, and that's including for the stocks as well. And that's where I see the market. And let me flip through a couple more charts and I'll kick this over to you and you can go crazy. Solana, I have Solana basically the exact same setup as Ethereum, guys. I have my 618 based off these wave projections here. 618, the top side for Solana is resistance at 100, and then the bottom for support is $77. And again, Solana, just like Ethereum, just like Bitcoin, just like the Russell, just like the NASDAQ, is all below the 233 and the 144. If you can come up to that at the one fib, that's 116. And the golden ratio for Solana is 141. I anticipate all of these meeting this resistance. And most likely, I think the bias is going to be to retrace, being that the bearish conditions that we're in. But I want to share these upside and downside targets. And of course, the key support levels for Solana at my one fib here is $59 and the 1618 at $31, which is crazy since Solana was at one point over $250. But Craig, here's my Russell chart, because we were talking about the Dow. So I've been talking about the Russell a lot because of the amount of meme stocks and everything in here. So the colored candles is the Russell, the white candles is Bitcoin. Now, these previous patterns here, there's definitely some variations, but looking at the top, so Bitcoin made its all-time high 48 hours after the Russell made its all-time high. And since then, going from up here down to the right, everything has been tracking. Obviously, volatility is different, but this bottom quadrant is very interesting to me when I'm looking at these movements that the Russell and Bitcoin are both making. Both, as you know, are in a death cross. The NASDAQ's also in a death cross. The SPX is looking to do a death cross. And all of them, except for the SPX, are moving up to test their 144 and 233. And that's just how interlinked I see these marketplaces as far as the money, especially these marketplaces that are heavy in tech stocks. And, it's amazing to me, this formation down here, the selling climax candles, the up thrust, the selling climax candles over and over again. They're tracking so closely.
Same players, same game.
Exactly. I'll just flip through the real quick screenshot of these last 3 charts just to show you guys. And so here's the 144,233 on the Russell, just like Bitcoin, it's pumping up. Everything was moving up on Friday. Obviously, the markets are closed, but you can see I have a pattern here as well. And this is where I expect to find resistance at the 2133 on the Russell. Looking at the SPX, SPX is actually above the 233. It's getting a nice pump, but I do have resistance here from our bearish 5-0 pattern, and that's basically at 44.76. The SPX, Craig, I've said this before. I don't know if you agree or not, but it's the broader market, right? And based on the previous bubbles of what's happened in the equity markets, the SPX, and even in .com, the SPX stays strongest the longest. It's done that before, and you see the high growth stocks, because it is more specific, like the NASDAQ and the Russell,
Right.
they tend to get punished first. And flipping over to the NASDAQ, and then I'll kick this to you. The NASDAQ, guys, same way, death cross. You see the death cross, 55, 233. If you're using simple moving average, 50 and 200, it's the same thing. And then looking up here, you can see that you're coming up to test your 233. So all the markets, man, are so super similar. And that's what I see happening in the marketplace. And I feel like if the Russell and the NASDAQ can't flip their 233s and they descend, I don't see Bitcoin ascending. Maybe you might get a more volatile type pump, right? A bear market pump. I just don't see
Right.
it. That's just my opinion. But if they do flip it and hold it as support, then you could potentially see Bitcoin flip it and hold it as support. They're just moving so closely together. But Lee, if you want to kick that over to Craig.
All right. This is just a clear chart, but I'm just going to kind of go over a broader view. I do want to show some stuff in this chart, but I'll do that here in a minute. Let's pull up. So this is obviously the log chart. I have this in 4-day just so I can fit it in the screen. It just shows how all these fibs, again, looking at fibs, but these are fib channels rather than retracements or extensions. But as you can see, I had this right here. I've had these 3 white lines, as you can see. This one I moved. I originally had it over here when I was saying I believe that was the beginning of the bear market. When it broke, obviously went higher. I still think that's probably more valid. But regardless, right now we are coming down to this fib, which was major support and resistance all through here. That's the 0.5 fib of the move, so halfway through the move. It's around, if we get down to here, that's around the lower to mid 20s. And I've been talking about that a lot. I think that if Bitcoin can actually reverse there, which I don't think is likely, but it doesn't really matter what I think. It matters what happens. But this is confluent with a lot of different things I'm going to show you on a couple different charts. So if that breaks, the next fib is going to be around, depending on how long it would take to get here. But what was your target? Like 10 something?
Yeah, just based off the pattern, I have 10.6,
Yeah.
but my actual target would probably be 3,800 based on the COVID lows.
That's
That to me,
probably what I'm looking at.
yeah, that to me is long-term support, right? I mean, that is where, when everything went to hell, which is what a bubble is, or a black
Right.
swan event, where did it hold up? And that's where it held up. And I
Right.
found that target some different ways. But yeah, your TA is extremely similar, because we both utilize Fibonacci. We're just utilizing different
Right.
tools. Yeah.
Right. And I'll show you other just patterns that are lining up with the same scenarios. But this I've showed a lot. I've got a ton of hate for it. But everybody says that Bitcoin should never go past its last high, which was here. Well, that would be true if, let me say, that could be true if Bitcoin is truly in a 4-year cycle. I don't necessarily believe the 4-year cycle hype myself. I think this could have been just one big, huge bull market. The stock market was in a bull market of Bitcoin's whole existence, and it still corrected 80 to 85%.
That's such an important point. I don't think most people realize what you just said. Crypto has only existed in an equities bull market, right? The longest bull
Right.
market in the history of the stock market, guys. It's 11 years.
And it caught the end.
Right. Yeah, and it still falls down at the end of the cycle for crypto. It would still fall down in a bull market for equity. So it's never been in it. So yeah, the 4-year cycle, I think, is definitely up to question. Plus, our last bear market in stocks, as you know, was 10 years.
Right.
.com. Yeah. So
Right. And they talk about the halving as deflation or whatever. Like there's gonna be less Bitcoin. The fact of the matter is there's still more Bitcoin daily. It's less added daily, but it's not taking any Bitcoin away or making it any more rare. Um, there's only gonna be what 21 million Bitcoin, so you can't say it's gonna be more rare. It's just rare. It's not getting worse. Um, unless people keep buying, like people are, pressing the narrative. But looking at this, if I take the big count, there's 5 waves that this could possibly have been the 5th wave here. The 5th wave usually you can consider like a bull trap. Usually goes just above 3, which we had in the summer on my 5 waves down, where I thought it was going to go a little bit further down, but I'll look at that here in a minute too. But as you can see, there's 5 wave counts in here, 5 wave counts in 3, 5 wave counts in 5, if that's the top. So looking at it in the Elliott wave, this is the point I wanted to get across with this. I don't know. Do you know who Fink is on Twitter? He's a real good
no.
guy too. I've talked to him. Had a ton of followers on TradingView. He's not necessarily a trader. He's a position guy that stays in his positions for years, but he's got a great view of the market also. Check him out if you haven't.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess what I'm trying to say here is everybody thinks, this was the peak here, 20K has to hold. Well, if you look at this in the Elliott wave count, and this was one big cycle, according to Elliott wave, it just cannot go down past wave 1, which is around $1,400 or something in that area. So I'm not saying it's going to go that low. I know Fink has a target of like 1,800, but if you look at his past, he's got a really good record too. But like I said, he's not big on YouTube. He's just on TradingView, and he doesn't like the trolls, so he doesn't do a whole lot.
Well, how could you have any trolls, Craig, if you say 1,800?
Right. So just a point I wanted to make, that if this is a 5th wave, we could have a correction all the way down. I mean, as low as that possibly. I don't think it's going to go that low, but like I said, the bear markets often go a lot lower than people think. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm looking more towards the 38, and we'll take a look at that now. So this is the Amazon to Bitcoin chart. The chart so many trolls are sick of because it posts it daily, but it's valid daily. And the reason I do that is if it does get invalidated, then we'll be able to see, what went wrong and show people how to look at invalidation, because this doesn't only apply to this particular chart. It's kind of trying to show people how patterns work. And and a lot of people say you can't compare the .com bubble to the crypto bubble, and I think it's almost the exact same thing. It's just bigger. There was tons of speculation this whole time. I bet if you went back in time and talked to anybody invested in this, every one of these bounces, they felt relief and it was going to go higher, and then it dumped and they wish they would have sold this high. Then it dumped down here and they, it started bouncing up and they still didn't sell, and just all the way down, the same feeling. I mean, markets are based on human emotion, right? Some people play emotions better than others.
No, it's all euphoria.
Yeah. And down here, you can see this is going to be key. And I'll show you on the weekly. I've started looking at this here a little different, and I wanted to point this out. Try to keep it as short as I can, but I hate when I do stuff and forget points, which I'll still miss some, but wanted to take some measurements in here. So if we went from this top here, and I won't go through it all, but these tops and bottoms are almost identical in time also. But let's look at from this top up here. We're going to go to this first bottom here and just look. That was 48%. We go over to here. See what this one is. This one's like 52%. So pretty damn close. And then if we also, so I'm starting to think we're more in this area on both of these. As you can see, we had a higher low here, and we had a higher low here. So it's still adding up. I had this line in here right here on both of these charts, just looking for a break of that, which I'm still willing to lean a little bullish if we close, open or close a candle above this. So let me get this back out of the way. But another thing I wanted to point out, a lot of people say that this is just like the summer quote unquote dip. If we look at the weekly here, you can see the yellow line. That's my 55 EMA. I'm a big fan of EMAs in crypto just because crypto's so volatile and they move a lot closer to the price.
Right.
So right here in the summer, there's your 55 EMA. You never opened and closed a candle underneath. You closed one and opened one, but you never opened and closed one underneath. This week, if this week closes below the 55 EMA, which is right around that 43,000, that'll be the 10th candle to open and close below the 55 EMA. That's huge. I showed you that 3,300 or 3,400 range. I talked about it, I think, in the beginning. If not, I meant to, but we'll go on with that. Around 33 to, if this was next week, we could move it up a little bit to 34,000 is the bottom of this channel. A lot of people were talking about. And if that breaks, that also, the 200 EMA, depending on how long, obviously this can move a little bit. 200 EMAs around the mid $20,000 range. I see us at least hitting that, and I'm expecting, if that happens, we'll probably get one more bounce up to retest the bottom of this, maybe get a wick above it and come back down. But now what makes me bullish is if we get above this 43,000 on the weekly and we open and close a weekly candle above that, then I will start to look more on the bullish side. But again, you have to look at the whole perspective of what's going on at that point if it was to happen. If you look down here below, we've been above this trend line a lot of times on the RSI. I've had this here forever. The RSI follows the body of the candle, not the wick, meaning the RSI close is what makes it valid. So on the weekly close, which is at 1 day and 7 hours, if this closes below here, that pretty much confirms that it's going to continue down, in my opinion. But anytime you get this RSI to open and close a weekly candle above that, which will line up with the 55 EMA, if it closes above that, then I would start to look a little bullish, maybe look for higher targets. Not to say we go to a new all-time high, just saying maybe we could get to those levels you were talking about in the higher 40s. If you look at the middle of this channel right here, it's in the lower to mid 50s, right in the middle of this channel up here. So that would align with your case as it, you know, if we did continue up. Personally, I don't really see it happening. And another thing I wanted to point out on the EMAs, you can see all the smaller EMAs, none of them even touched the 55 here. We've already closed the 8 and the 13 a few times underneath. And the 8 is the red line, the white line is 13. Next is 21. If you guys are familiar with my EMA strategy, it works on most time frames. You'll never catch the exact top or exact bottom. But when the 8, the 13, and the 21 cross below or above the 55 EMA, right at that cross, you'll have a candle. If that next candle opens and closes, depending on which way it's going, above or below the 8 EMA, will be confirmation of a sell signal. So look at the 1 hour or the 1 day. So this was the 5 waves I was talking about here, where I expected the 5th wave to get lower. And if we look at this, and I had this count that it was, I think I actually made the wave count somewhere in this area, and we actually got these next levels perfectly, except for the wave 5. Let me zoom in. Those of you that are familiar with Elliott wave 5 just has to pass wave 3, which was here, and it did just past it. So kind of like a bear trap, you know, just enough to pass wave 3 and then bounce back up. So that was the end of our 5 waves. And then if you were familiar with my channel, I was looking for an ABC, but I thought this was it in the smaller part as a correction wave, because after 5 waves down, you need a correction wave, right? So it went higher than I expected. I don't think anybody expected it to do what it did. I didn't expect it to go this high, which like I said, I think was just a big bull trap. That's what I was calling for here. Just didn't think that high. And the all the bulls did not think it would get rejected once it passes this high. So
Exactly.
again, it's how markets work, man.
You and I had similar top targets there, and obviously we were both trading it as well because it went past the 618, and you
Yeah.
know, it's just it was euphoric, it was overspill. But I wanted to toss you some kudos too, man, because I came to crypto last May, and you nailed a lot of predictions. I think you nailed
Right.
the first
I
top.
hit the
You
I
caught the
hit the
bottom.
top
Yeah.
with the wick off right over here, 64. And
Yep.
contrary to popular belief, I still believe that was the top. And this was just one big bull trap, stop loss hunt, whatever you want to call it, coming up to this level. My opinion. But yeah, back here, I think it was March. I said it a bunch of times back then, but it was like March 16th. I made a video calling 64 the top, and that's when we had this big drop. And then I did expect a rally, a bull trap up, but like I said, didn't think that it was going that high. I was looking for around 57, 58, and obviously it went higher. But
hey, Craig, I had an Elliott Wave question that you might be able to answer. So I'm not an
right.
Elliottian, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
when you were when this bull run was kicking off, how is it that some of those Elliott Wave guys were just coming up with these numbers that I think a lot of normal people like me coming into the market were like, how are they getting 500K, 250K?
Right.
Like you never saw that, right? When you were like plotting out your waves originally, you just didn't. Was
No,
that even a possibility?
not this go round. No. I actually, like last year, was putting up my charts and getting a lot of hate saying, I'll delete my account if we hit 100 grand. Obviously we didn't hit 100 grand. I was pretty confident that that wasn't going to happen, especially all the hype around it. Like I just didn't see it coming. I couldn't find any count or anything to back that up. I know a lot of people are looking at this as a wave 4. This whole thing is wave 4, and we still got a wave 5 up. It's possible.
Yeah.
At this point, like I said, I believe me, I don't just want the market to go down, but what I see, I can't change what I see. You know what I mean? If something, like I said, I showed the invalidation points. We start crossing over those and that, then it'll switch me. But you have to have some grounds to where your opinion gets invalidated. If you don't have that, then you're just guessing. But
that's what's unfortunate. And
certain people just don't get that.
Right. And that's what's unfortunate. Like we were talking about in the YouTube space, you get the bipolar TA where one day it says incoming 80K, the next day it says, oh my God, I'm scared for Bitcoin. Because for people, it's a profession and it gets clicks. But really, I think you agree with this too, the market's a live animal, right? It's a living organism.
Right.
So really what you're doing in technical analysis is you're providing updates to what's actually happening in the market. It's not as much about, you have to have a general direction, which you can get from Elliott Waves, you can get from harmonics, you can get from different ways to analyze the market, but you really just need to view everything day to day, and you trade in the market that you have, not that the market that you wish to have.
Right. And like right now, we're still in a macro downtrend. So everything is still, I'm looking for the downside. If this downtrend breaks to the upside, the numbers we discussed, then you know that it can change. But until then, I see no reason to be bullish. You could also look at this down here as a bear flag, maybe a wave 4 before 5 down. But another thing I wanted to show is we were watching this before it broke, and we were watching for a break of this 51.5. And if it broke, we knew it was not going to be good. And we had a measured move, which is just measuring the widest point where it broke here up to, or is that the one? Yeah. So you take the widest point of the rising broadening wedge from where it broke all the way up to the top. And that also gets us down to that mid to lower 20s section. So that area has been really, there's just a lot of things pointing to us go down there. I think there's a very, very, very good chance that we get down to these levels. And like I said, if Bitcoin's going to be bullish, that would be the area to bounce. Now, people are going to, if it bounces there and then goes further, people are going to say, you said if it bounced that it was going to new all-time highs. no matter what, I think we get a bounce here. If we get to that level, but once that level breaks, then I think it's confirmation that we have much, much further to go down.
No, you're right. I think a lot of people, especially if they're not too familiar with technical analysis, need to understand when we're talking about a descending market, you're still going to have pumps up, right?
Right. You have to. People have to exit.
Yeah, the principle of Elliott waves, the principle of just fundamental TA going back to Charles Dow is price moves in waves. So nothing is going to be straight down or straight up. And so you expect bounces at key levels. And what we do is try to identify those key levels to be able to enter trades and make profit.
Exactly. And I think, you know, two of the best things, and I always tell people not to trade off of one thing. Like, don't just trade off of Elliott wave. Have other things to confirm your trade entries and exits, not just off Elliott wave. I did that in the beginning, and that doesn't end well. I'll tell you that much. Especially, I mean, in the smaller time frames. But to learn Elliott wave, learn at least the basics of it, and then read into Wyckoff or Wyckoff, however anyone wants to say it, but read into that stuff, and Elliott wave will kind of give you a idea of, you know, how markets move, and Wyckoff will explain why they're moving. If you look into it, it makes a lot more sense of the market, and that'll keep you away from a lot of the FOMO or fear missing out going up, or fear missing out on a short going down. I mean, it'll let you know that the market's probably not going to just run away from you if you're keeping an eye on it.
Craig, do you do time predictions for when you see some of these? I don't get into the time side too much because that's like the hardest thing to do, but do you do that?
I kind of do, to a point. Like back here, if you were watching my videos back then, this was what, the middle of June, when we were up in here, I figured the bottom, just by, I had some other trend lines in there. I don't have the chart up now, but it was showing the bottom mid-June. And I was telling people, if you were going to long, I would do it in the middle of June, and then just keep moving your stops up to follow it, because I don't like to long when I think we're in a bear market. So, but I was telling other people, you know, that mid-June, and that's where we hit. So there are some areas where time frames can match up if you have a lot of confluence there, but to actually try to time the market, I don't really try to time it like this. You know, everybody thinks every move is going to be the move in here, and this has been down here for what, 3 months. So, you know, and really not a whole lot has happened. So I don't like to judge it. I mean, I might throw a guess out, or if there's some confluence in some time area, then maybe, but I don't try to time. I've seen people do it, and I've seen some people that are actually pretty decent at it, but that's not my cup of tea, I guess.
I saw that you track a lot of the same stuff we track too, like gold and commodities and physical things as well. And do you see, are you pretty confident in the gold bull run is just beginning with what's going on in the macro markets with the debt and the record high inflation in the last 40 years? Is that what you're looking at too?
Very possible. I was very bearish on gold a while back, but yeah, now it's starting to turn around. I mean, I think there's going to be some disappointment on people looking at gold or Bitcoin as the new gold. I think that's really going to throw people off. Bitcoin doesn't take off and gold does. And let me show you one more thing real quick on this. That, like I said, this could be a bear flag or whatever, and the measured move of that also comes down to the measured move of the rising broadening wedge fall. I do have a 4-hour chart here. I'm going to go over, and then I'll go over to gold with you. But I've been looking at this as a possible wave count and getting us down to the same level, mid to lower 20s. I had a different count as this being 1, 2 here, another 1, 2, and then 1, 2. I don't know how familiar you are with Elliott wave, but when you get these, like the big 1, 2 here, 1, 2, and then you get a bigger 1, 2 here, that's pretty damn bearish. And it does seem like what we're seeing. This is the area that I want to watch right now. I know this is smaller time frame, but I did want to point this out. If we go from this high to this low here, this would actually be a little higher. 43.6, right around that area is where I would expect to reject if it gets up in here. Now this wave count, all it has to do to invalidate that wave count is break the wave one over here, and that would be around the 45.8,
Right.
which lines up with your stuff. So
Your 43.6 is the target on the Gartley pattern. So the Gartley pattern, Harold Gartley, just before Ralph Nelson Elliott, similar concept on Fibonacci. So he has an impulse wave and an ABC correction, whereas Elliott wave is a 5 wave with an ABC
okay,
correction. So all those fib patterns that people see, there's double triangles. It's
right,
considered an impulse wave with an ABC correction. So that number that you gave, the 43.6, 43.7, is the exact target on my Gartley. I was just rounding
right.
it up to the fib number at 44.
It's amazing how that stuff,
Lines
the
up.
different views
Yeah.
can come up with the same stuff. That's why, I always tell people, watch other YouTubers too. Just try if I they should also watch the bullish guys too, but
Right.
not the overly bullish, I guess you can say. You can kind of tell when someone has market experience and don't, especially when their videos start changing. Like they'll have lines that cut through candles and all kinds of stuff to try to show their point, and then they change it the next time. It's just be careful who you're following out there, guys, and never take a trade off of anything I say or any other YouTuber. There's a lot more to trading than just saying, here's my target, here's where it goes. A lot of stuff goes on in between there, and I'm not going to sit around and every time I make a change, tell someone that and
Well,
people
that's
don't know. Go ahead.
dude, that's a super valid point, because especially when we're uploading and recording videos, it's old data. It's kind of like,
Right,
trading's like going to war. Do you want the live data, or do you want to look at the
right,
map from 2 days ago?
right, right. It's like betting against a rerun that somebody
Yeah.
else watched. It's yeah.
I saw you
A
tracking the
lot of
Dow.
people don't get that.
Yeah, I saw
Like
you
when I
track. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you about the Dow. There was a delay. I saw you tracking the
Yeah,
Dow and what you're looking
yeah,
at.
I was, and I was talking about an open and close of a daily above here that's possibly bullish, and which it is. We may get a little bit higher. I could have this line, off. It might be something more like this, would match up, but regardless, actually, that does make a channel. But anyway, it's possible we could go higher here, but if we look at the RSI, and this is the daily over the daily closed, we did make a higher high there and a much lower high here. That doesn't mean we can't go up a little more before coming down, but I think this is just another fake little rally to get people in over here. But like you said, the Russell, was it the Russell you said that usually
Yeah.
keeps going a little bit when everything else, and that may be the same case for the Dow, but I
Oh,
think
the
the
S&P.
Dow was
Yeah.
topped, man.
The S&P in 2000 and 2008 stayed stronger longer, while the Nasdaq broke and the Russell broke. So the S&P, because it's the broader market, and they have
Right,
they have energy stocks, they have value stocks in there, they have a lot of things in there. But these
right,
tech markets, or the Dow, with being more narrow, you can see the effects, I think, a lot quicker.
right. Makes sense. And that's another thing people don't get is Bitcoin is a risk on asset right now. So that's the
Yeah.
first thing people get out of, big money gets out of when they're sure they were getting in it this year, all the uh, big money people have been waiting on. Finally, some bigger companies started getting into it, but my opinion on that is they're in the markets to make money. That's what the markets are. I mean, um, I don't know if you want to buy and hold, and you got a long time to hold, I guess, and it all depends. I'm not telling everybody to trade. I'm not telling everybody to invest. I'm not telling everybody to sell. I just trying to give people different ways to look at the market. It's a freaking market. It's what it
Yeah.
is. There's no guarantees in any market. Like I think that Bitcoin could have a good future. Do I think it'll be adopted as a money? Probably not. I, as I showed the Amazon chart, it could, if it plays out like Amazon, if it could be 10 years before, it actually breaks that all-time high again, if it was to play out like that. But it makes sense to me because that's how long it took to wash out all the .com scams and all the crappy web pages and all the stuff that people were buying into. And we have a lot more crypto scams to get washed out before I think Bitcoin can really take off. And I think that's what will make it such a long bear market, is because it's going to take a long time to wash those out. And then when people give up hope on all that stuff, it's going to be a long time before people come back into crypto. It's going to.
Well, that's, I want people to understand too, because I know we have a lot of cross viewership, but everything you're saying is actually backed in fact. I mean, when the .com market crashed, like you're referring to Amazon, it went down 92%. It went down. It was the star of the show the year before, and the bear market, you did not make a new all-time high for 10 years. So that's what you're talking about when you say it could be 10 years. And people, especially younger people that are probably half my age, they don't realize that because they may have just been born. And, I was trading in the .com crash. I was trading at the 08 crash. And I was at an investment bank in 08, one of the investment banks that went under. And people say, well, how can I believe some guy on YouTube? And it's not really, to me, like you said, it's not about believing anybody. It's these big banks. I always tell people, go watch that movie, The Big Short. I was working at one of them. The smartest Ivy League economist in the world didn't see it happening. Nobody saw it happening. And it's kind of like reminiscent of the current crypto space where, like you said in the beginning, everybody says you can't lose 29. You're not going to be able to go below 25. No way Bitcoin goes below 15. People post in my comments these different numbers that it can never go to. And I just said, hey, if the macro markets do come down, all those numbers are going to get violated because a crash is a crash for a reason, and it always goes below long-term trend. In 1989 in Japan, they had the biggest double bubble, which was equities and land. 1989, and today in 2022, they still have not made a new all-time high in either of those markets.
People don't look at that big picture, man.
No, it's crazy. And we've been so euphoric. And I know you follow the Fed stuff too, but people got to realize the Fed had $3 trillion in debt prior to COVID. They now have over $9 trillion.
Right.
And that money, when you look at the charts, you can see how the S&P, like we were talking about, returns 10% normally in a bull run, and it went up 120% in 2 years. I mean, it's just euphoric. And then you got to, that's what's so difficult, is you got to be able to compare it to the crypto space. But you have to understand, and when I say you, I don't mean you, I just mean people. You have to understand that all that extra money, the stimulus money, all that money finds its way in the equities and the crypto. People have extra money. And I mean, it's a parabolic rise.
That's like a shit coin, man. And that's the Dow Jones. I mean, it's insane. It's insane to think that it's just going to continue up. Could it? It's possible.
Exactly. You made a reference. Hey, I had a question. You made a reference earlier, and for people that aren't familiar with penny stocks, you said a lot of these coins. I saw, I think, on your video the other day, you mentioned XRP kind of looks like a penny stock. How it made a high, and a lower high, and a lower high. Yeah. So, what are some characteristics of penny stocks for people that don't have that background? Is it just highly volatile?
Obviously, parabolic and just parabolic euphoric rise like this, and then a long drawn out, bear market, whatever you want to call it there, and then another high, and this could make another high, but I think XRP may have made its last high. Obviously nobody knows for sure, but this definitely, from being a penny stocks, this looks exactly like a lot of penny stocks before they die out eventually. And you can go back and look at Verge, coins like that were gonna be the next new thing. Everybody was all into it, and then they often look like this, dying out. And I was a big believer in Litecoin when I came in. That's the thing. I had market experience when I got into crypto from playing in the penny stocks and watching the regular markets, but I got sucked into that belief that it was going to change the world, and I got into that narrative. So I started looking, and I figured Litecoin is a good coin because it's, the only other one that's not centralized like Bitcoin, and it doesn't have a company run it, which now it has kind of, but it's the same thing with Litecoin here. It's just making lower highs and lower highs. And, but every time in the penny stock world, anybody that's been in there, you'll after that bottom, you get that rally, and it feels like that's it. It's going to the moon again, and then most of the people that I met when I was in a lot of the penny stock forums and stuff, most people I met were just shorters in penny stocks, because you just wait for that euphoria and people getting all hyped and go crazy, and they make a lot of money. But I will tell you, the penny stock markets died down a lot in 2017. That's what steered me over to crypto. I noticed a lot of people were moving from penny stocks to crypto. So you got a lot of those traders in crypto right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. I noticed, I noticed the same with the Forex space, because back when I first started trading Forex, we were using AOL chat. Remember that?
Yes.
There's no YouTube or anything. I was on dial-up net zero modem and internet. It was crazy. And there was a lot of Forex guys, and I see it with especially with the pattern trading, because in Forex they were really big with triangle trading. Scott Carney came out with his harmonics with these Fibonacci patterns, because we have some in Forex. Well, you've traded Forex too. The volume we use is tick volume, because there's no centralized exchange.
Right.
So it's, people say tick volume's almost as good. I always kind of give that analogy. Do you want if you're going to war, do you want your weapon to be 75, 80% accurate, or you want it to be 100%? Because,
right.
So I use a lot of volatility and stuff, but yeah, there's a lot of crypto. And I think what people need to understand too, and I know this from just talking to you personally, is that this is a asset class that we want people to make a lot of money in. Like, we're not here to make people angry or throw your phone across the room. This is an asset class that allowed me to quit my corporate job, and it's allowed a lot of people on my admin team to really find a lot of wealth and help their families, help their friends, that type of stuff. So I think it's a fantastic asset class. I just want to reiterate
it is,
because what you said is absolutely true. Is that just view the market for what it is, though. Don't get religious. Don't get religious about it.
Right. And crypto's great at getting people religious about it. Just like, the .com, people were religious about everything they believed in. And you can't change anybody's mind. But people in crypto just have a hard time trying to look at both ways. So you get a lot of headbutting, and I myself get caught up into it. I get sick of, the trolls, and I say some things I probably shouldn't, which I'm trying not to do anymore. Just because people think I'm trying to be negative and say it's going down, like I hate Bitcoin or whatever. And I don't hate this market in any way, shape, or form. I love it. Just like you, it provided me financial freedom. So how could you hate something that provided that for you? I just want people I try to just get my view across. Like I said, not to say my view is correct, but you should never have your ideas planted on, for one, a YouTuber, including myself. But you shouldn't have your ideas placed in one direction and that's it. Like the Bitcoin is guaranteed to succeed. I think there's a good chance it will succeed and it'll be around for a long time, no matter what. But is it guaranteed to? I don't think so. Nothing's guaranteed.
I'm not, you're probably more familiar with the back end of crypto than I am. And I definitely know people in my room, and probably your room as well, I'm sure, have a lot of experience working on some of these DeFi projects and stuff. But what do you think of that argument about the whole new series of cryptos that are more advanced, and eventually Bitcoin will get, I know you've heard it from being in this space longer.
Right.
When will Ethereum flip Bitcoin, that type of stuff? Or does that not really weigh in your mind that much as far as?
It doesn't weigh really in my mind. I think if something comes out that's really, really working and handling a lot of volume, like as in transaction volume, stuff like that, I think people will start to notice it. A lot of them promise it, but no one's really delivered. I know there's going to be a lot of XRP fans saying the XRP. I'm not saying I'm not saying Ripple is bad. I think it's actually decent, but I don't think there's a need for XRP. That's my view. I just had to put that out there, but kind of got off track.
Well, I think
what I was talking about. But
Yeah, exactly. I think well, I saw you go on BitBoy, and I heard BitBoy. I don't know if it was that video or a different video where he said there's over 17,000 cryptos now, right? That's just insane. And I would venture to say, and you may disagree, but I would venture to say somewhere in the high 90 percentile are probably cryptos
Easy,
that shouldn't be around. Yeah.
easy. And what a lot of people say this real quick. This is what I meant to say last time, and then I'll get off the subject. But there are companies out there you can have design your cryptos, right? You can have them design whatever you want, ERC20, whatever you want. They'll design it for you, make however many you want. You can make it mineable or pre-mine, do whatever you want. They'll make the coin for you, right? And you can put it out if you can get it on with an exchange or whatever. But what a lot of these guys do, and I'll get a lot of hate for this, but I don't care because I want it out there. And you probably get some very high paying shit coins email you, I'm sure, just because you're on YouTube and you have followers. But how that works is, let's say I want to create a coin, right? So I come up with this idea, I write the white paper that says what it's going to do. So naturally it has to do that, right? I make a bunch of them or pre-mine them, whatever, have them set it up, and I give some people that have a lot of influence some of those coins and maybe pay them a little extra on top to do videos.
Right.
And pump that shit up, and then it's Wolf of Wall Street shit. But most of them coins, that's all they are. And they'll even give, and I know this for a fact, they will even give devs coins to just use their name and say they're in it. I mean, and you'll see, if you really dug in, you'll see a lot of the same devs on a lot of the same projects, but right. I don't think most of them are not actively working on it. I don't think they're working on the next hype thing to say about it or working on the next news article to pay for, but that's about all they're working on, most of them, in my opinion.
No, I think,
and that's penny stocks. Same thing with penny stocks.
Yeah.
Shoebox companies, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Crypto needs a washing.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're almost at an hour. Did you have more charts or things that you want to show?
Not really. I mean, this was the Ethereum chart. We've been ranging in between here. I think it'll probably end up making the same move as Bitcoin. Whatever Bitcoin does, that's what'll happen. But no, I'm pretty much good. Gold.
Oh yeah, gold.
Take a quick look at gold.
I was curious your thoughts, because gold has been the most disappointing asset to me over the last few years, and we got that nice spike, but it's coming back down and trying to find support.
Right. Well, right here, I've been watching this line forever, and it's just playing on it now till we get a actual confirmation of this either being support or resistance. If it becomes resistance here around that 1920, 1930 range, then we'll probably come back down to visit these 1820 ranges. If that bottom line breaks, though, past the 1820 or whatever, it could get really ugly for gold. But it is showing some hidden bullish divergence here. I'll say that.
Are you into physical at all? Like, do you have any exposure to physical gold, silver?
I do. I do. I've started getting into it a little more last year. I bought some gold jewelry and stuff like that. I've bought a little bit of silver, not a whole lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of dabbling in that stuff just in case. Like I said, electricity is a huge part of all money right now. So if it goes out, you better have something. Not to say it's gonna go out. I'm not saying that.
I know. I got you.
But hey, it's real.
Yeah, exactly.
And one more point.
Yeah.
People with the bank stuff, and the banks, I highly doubt the banks are going to go anywhere. The big banks, I'm sure little banks might die off, as you know. But without banks right now, crypto is of no use. I don't mean it to sound bad, but people say screw the banks, go crypto. That would take pretty much everybody to get into crypto, so you could, transfer money back and forth.
Yeah, I see. I
but you need the banks to exit. Period. I mean, you need the banks to exit.
That's the problem a lot of us have with, hypothetically speaking, that might trade on exchanges outside of the country, is the conversion process, right?
Right,
And
right.
and that's just, it's a realistic thing. No, you're right though. Like, to have an all crypto world, which, I'm not against at all, but you have to
No,
be able to, you got to have vendors accept it. You got to be able to convert it to other things and buy real hard assets with it. I don't just mean
right,
like Tesla taking Doge. I mean like
right, right.
broad. I got to be able to go to Publix, which is a huge grocery store in Florida, and be able to buy groceries.
It's got
That's
to be
where we're at.
common, man.
Right.
It's and there's what there, a place is going to accept 17,000 different currencies. I highly doubt it. So
Right.
I don't, it basically, crypto and everything else, just like any other market right now, is a great way to make money. And you, like a lot of these crypto influencers or big Bitcoin people that scream hold, 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 and buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip, are buying all these, fancy cars, mansions, yachts, and whatever. They're not paying for it in crypto. They're selling their crypto to buy it. That's what are they selling it for? Cash. They don't talk about that stuff, but
Yeah. I don't
I
know.
don't
I don't
know.
know. I don't know if Bugatti's taking Doge.
Right, right. It's
It's hard to get Doge on your demo account.
they're in it to make money just like everyone else.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they probably do hold, a portion of their Bitcoin. I personally am not holding any right now. I keep some for trading. Most of mine is in USDC now.
Same here.
Most, I don't trust USDT, but that's just me. That's just my opinion.
No, hey, I agree. We talk about that all the time. And there's actually a big hedge fund shorting Tether because they think it's going to get exposed eventually as being a giant fraud.
I would think so too, unless the Fed's behind it, then it's just it's just them doing what they do. So
have you
who
checked out,
knows?
not to switch the topic, but have you checked
Right.
out gold stable coins at all? Like there's PMGT and there's a couple different ones. There's one on Kinesis.
Isn't there something Z bar or something like H bar
Yeah,
or something? Is that
there's
one
a
of
few
them?
different ones. The ones I was familiar with, PMGT is it's Perth Mint in Australia, so it's backed by the Australian government,
Okay.
and you can use the gold stable coin to transact, but you can also exchange it for physical at any point. I just thought it was an interesting thing because I know Peter
Yeah.
Schiff is always really big about he would be interested in gold, crypto peg the gold.
Yeah.
Because
If it's actually pegged to gold, that's the hard part.
right, exactly. So, well, dude, I really appreciate doing this with you, and we need to do
Yeah,
this
I
again.
appreciate it.
This
For
is a lot of
sure.
fun. Yeah, and I guess. Well, Lee, you want to go ahead and take us out, and then we'll go ahead and post this video, both of us, and then we can all our links. Your links will be on yours. Our links will be on ours. And guys, just for people that watch me and haven't met Crypto or Savvy before, definitely go ahead and check out his videos. He does awesome TA, and it's. I think you're a really good guy in this space, man. I think you really try to help people out.
And it's the same to you. Any of my viewers that are watching this now, check out Market Makers. And yeah, I appreciate the time and the collaboration. It was fun, man. And that we will definitely do it again.
Awesome. All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Take it easy.
All right, take care.